Hey everybody, I went over and visited our buddy Tony Catanero and picked up his air intake box for his radiator for his MSR. That's a 2-cylinder 250 Honda RS 250. You saw the video with our buddy Johnny, all excited about watching the power valves move as Tony warmed it up for practice. But did a little math with Tony on the phone, and because he's just a mile and a half or 2 miles up the road, he said, just come on over, and was going to take some pictures. He said, just take it home with you. So thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. I know he's probably looking in here, but called Frank Dolly that Tony bought the cart from, found out some history. My memory isn't completely gone, but when Tony was sending me pictures on my phone, we noticed there's another hole there. You see another hole on the bottom there? It's about an inch tall, 6.5 inches wide. This big opening here is 4 inches tall and 7 inches wide. So I didn't, all the years of looking at this air box on Frank and then Tony's cart, I never noticed that little extra hole in the bottom. Well, then when I noticed the riveting of this extra piece on the top, everything started coming back, right? The old MSR air box was literally cut like this here. It was back on an angle. So the bottom hole here is obviously swooped back on an angle, and then the front or the top was also back on an angle. So the middle, where it was split, was more prominent than the top or the bottom. And so this extra piece here was something, some type of development that Mike So up in Canada, who's MSR, by the way. MSR is Mike So Racing. To get a straight, flat, square intake, maybe it'd just be more aggressive to scoop the air, I guess. But I wanted to ask Tony how far down this this tube, this track, were these two, the upper and lower, separated. And you can see it's not too far. It's only about 4 inches or so. You can actually see it, the separation there. So what does all this mean? We're trying to come up with something for our car, right? What we don't want to do is end up with too big of an intake. Not that, all you have to do is tape it off because it'll run too cool. Actually, you can botch things up. You can botch the efficiency of the cooling of the radiator. With the old one that we just ran over there at Grattan, I botched up the math on this. I did square inches of front and rear radiator. That hole was big enough to cool both radiators and then some. And then, of course, back then we still had the hole in the front of the nose. It has to do with efficiency, folks. This here on Tony's car, 2-cylinder, 250, basically two 125s in one engine, runs 140 degrees on water, even on hot days. And the hot days to me is anything 90 and above. So sit down and watch the next video. The next video I'm going to bring you on the other camera over here, where we're going to do some math and I'm going to explain some things to you. We're not going to get into distance. The length of the track has to do, the longer the track, the less air pressure you have, or volume. The longer the air has to travel, the less efficient it's going to be. Just like your air hose on your air compressor, right? If you got a 100-foot hose and you got her cranked up to say 150 psi, at the end of your 150 foot hose, say you've got 100 psi. If you add 500 more feet to it, you're going to be down, say, 75 psi. The longer the air has to go, the less velocity it has. Same with your cooling off your brakes. The longer those ducts are, the less efficient the cooling air is going to come out of there. So these things we have to take into account. But what we end up doing is we take theoretical practice and use it in a reality-based theater. That's called testing. Okay? That's why we test. We'll try different things. That's why we didn't weld anything on solidly, because we may end up having to change some things. But this is how we get started getting the shape and contour and height of the intake and all this stuff for this air box. So I'm going to run you through some math and stuff. hang in there. Watch part 2 of the video. Pretty cool. Tony's piece. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it, man.